Hey there, everyone. It's Camber here with the Yo Pro No. I'm so excited today to be joined by Anna Gibson, 27-year-old managing editor at 6am City, which if you haven't heard of it or not living in a city where they are located, you're going to love hearing about it today. So we'll get into that in a moment. And Anna's actually coming to us from Greenville. I think she's in Charlotte right now for work purposes, but we both live in the same city. And so I'm excited to connect with you today, Anna. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Camber. It's so nice to be here with you, and I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and just get started with a brief background, like a little overview on who you are, where you're from, how you got to 6am City, and then we'll dive into those details.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am actually one of the rare people that is from Greenville, South Carolina at this point. So born and raised and have stayed and now have a house, which that was a journey in and of itself that we don't have time for this morning. So I actually went to University of South Carolina. I know this reaches nationwide, so I have to say it like that instead of just saying USC, which is my preference because it's the real USC. But I graduated from USC in 2016, and I had a double major in international business and marketing. So right after school, I joined a company that's actually local to Greenville. It's in Anderson, South Carolina, called Tektronic Industries, or TTI for short. And so a lot of people have never heard of TTI, but you know their products. So they manufacture power tools. So a lot of the power tools that you see in Home Depot, the brands are Ryobi, Rigid, and Milwaukee. So in my first few years in the company, I was in a rotational program and found myself in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which was very cold but a really cool city, honestly. And I keep pushing 6am to go there because it is such a fantastic city. But long term, I was like, I have to have more hot months than just June to August. So, and then actually, family circumstances brought me back to Greenville. My dad has had several open heart surgeries, and this past one was really serious. And so I just needed to be closer to home. And so I actually did something which I think a lot of young professionals should hear. I demoted myself at my previous company. So they have TTI has an entry-level role where you actually go work in Home Depot from kind of your 9 to 5, and you sell an aisle to customers. And so I effectually demoted myself and went back to that role because it allowed me to be at home. It allowed me to have a really steady schedule. And it allowed me to spend time with my mom and dad when I really needed it. So did that for about 9 months. And then I went back into the office in Anderson, in Milwaukee. And when I went back to the office in Anderson, I was a product manager. So what a product manager does is they take a product such as I worked in outdoor power equipment, so like string trimmers and also accessories, so like drill bits and stuff. And you take that product from an idea and you walk it through all of the steps, finance, engineering, packaging, all the way until it goes onto the shelf in Home Depot. So it was really cool to see some of my stuff like for Black Friday. I like have pictures with it because I mean, it's like your baby and you walk around with it in the office and stuff. So that was really cool. And then long-windedly, how I ended up at 6am City was, for those of you who may not be familiar, 6am City is a free email newsletter that goes out. We are going to be in 25 cities across the country come August. So Greenville was the first city, and it's where the headquarters is. And so I had been a subscriber since 2016 when they first launched. And when I lived in Milwaukee, I used to get so frustrated that there wasn't a 6am product in Milwaukee. And so when I moved back to Greenville, I was really enjoying it, reading it every day. And I just saw that they had an editor position come open. And I was like, well, I have no background in this, and they're definitely not going to hire me, but like, what the heck, I'm just going to go for it. And kind of, this would be another piece of advice. My cover letter is actually what got me in the door because I wrote a really creative cover letter. So 6am is all about highlighting local businesses and things that are unique to the cities that it's in. So in my cover letter, I said, this is my favorite place to get a sweet treat in Greenville. And this is my favorite place to go to dinner. And this is my favorite place to take a walk. And so I kind of like put myself into the role. And so my current boss still tells me that that was one of the things that stood out and really is what got my foot in the door. So they hired me. They're crazy. They hired me. And I started with the company in March of 2020. which was a wild time. At the time, I was still living at home with my family, and my parents were like, well, it's a good thing you live at home because you're going to need it going to a small startup. Like, when are you getting laid off? Tomorrow? And so I was like, great, no pressure at all. But 6 a.m. has grown. When I started, there were 27 people in the company. Now there are 120. We've grown from 7 markets across the country to now 25 markets. So it's been a really cool thing to be a part of. And so I spent about a year and a half as a city editor, so writing all about Greenville, doing the newsletter and social media for that market. And then when we had our huge expansion push in August of 2021, yeah, that's right. I was promoted to managing editor of expansion. So I was in charge and still am in charge of recruiting, hiring, and training all of the new city editors that come on board onto our team. And also as part of my role, I do a little bit of dabbling in affiliate marketing and trying to start that as a source of revenue for the company as well. So that was way more than you bargained for.
No, that was perfect.
15 minutes later, but that's my whole life story.
That's your life story. Up to, good thing you're not like 35. We would have, no, I'm kidding. No, that was.
She's like, thank goodness you're not 35.
No, that was great. And you answered some of my questions. But you also kind of gave a nice segue into one of the questions I had that I might as well kind of bump up.
Sure.
It's talking just a little bit more about 6 a.m. City, right? Like you've kind of given us the overview. It's really an incredible story. And I know that I have more of an advantage than some of the people listening or watching because I have, been a part of this for a long time. Something I didn't mention at the beginning was, how we were connected, and really it was over LinkedIn, which shout out to LinkedIn. I'm a big LinkedIn.
Big shout out to LinkedIn. We love LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's like your whole business probably.
Yes.
But we were talking before the interview, and I was the first first Greenville Today intern before there was even the 6 a.m. City. And so it's really amazing to see. That was back in 2015. So it's really amazing to see all that you guys have accomplished. So I'd love to hear just a little bit more about, the company as a whole, how it's funded, because I think that has also progressed. And, you just mentioned affiliate marketing, and then where it's going. I think that's really important for people who maybe aren't familiar. Maybe they don't live in a city where there's a market, but it's a really cool product. And I know that the co-founders have, I saw the vision at the beginning, and it's really amazing what they've created. So I'd love to hear it from you and just kind of, open-ended question, but feel free to.
Well, I hope you have like 30 more minutes, because this is one that I typically give people when I'm recruiting is the history of the company. So get ready, buckle up. But no, essentially for all of you who may not be familiar, 6 a.m. City was started by 2 guys named Ryan. So we call them the Ryans back in 2016 in Greenville, South Carolina. And so Ryans met at a leadership development program in town. And that's how they got connected. And they were really getting involved with, civic issues and government and events going on in Greenville. And at the time, and I mean, Camber can attest to this day, Greenville was going through a huge growth spurt. So they were like, how can we get all of this information out to people that are maybe new to Greenville, or maybe they've been local to Greenville their whole lives? So and they also saw what the Skim and the Hustle, this was like back when the Skim first started. And so e-newsletters were kind of this whole new thing that no one was doing. And so they saw what they were doing nationally, and they were like, well, what if we took that and made it local? So that's where the idea came from. And so essentially every day in our newsletters, the newsletters go out Monday through Friday at 6 a.m., thus the name of the company, 6 a.m. City. And we always have a lead story that dives deeper into something that's happening. Maybe it's a local election, maybe it's a brunch guide, maybe it's somewhere in between those. We have events, and then we have what we refer to as like news notes or news blurbs, if you will, like little 50-word kind of recaps of some of the other headlines going on in the day. So we've actually launched a weekend product. So like Greenville Weekend. And that is now, and that is now in Greenville, Columbia, Raleigh, I think. And so the idea is that it will be coming to all of our cities very soon. But as far as, I'm trying to think of all the things that you asked me, as far as revenue goes, so 6am, like many media companies, 6am's revenue model is advertising. So we have a dedicated sales team that goes out and sells to local, regional, and national clients. And then we have an in-house branded content studio that will help to write up that copy in a way that flows with our product. It's obviously marked as paid content, but it does flow seamlessly with our product. So it's something that really works well for our advertisers. So that is our primary form of revenue. Another stream of revenue that I am super excited about, and we are all super excited about as a company, is we just launched a 6am store. So it's called 6 in Maine. And we are actually, it's an e-commerce store. And so we are now selling local merch. So it may just be something as simple as like a t-shirt with Greenville on it, but something really cool that I think is awesome is we are partnering with local makers and artisans in the cities to be a place for them to sell their products. So like we're partnering with Methodical Coffee in Greenville, for example. We have a gal in Greenville that makes little bow ties and bandanas for your pets and stuff like that. So maybe some of these local makers that don't have the footprint right now to have their own shop and their own store, they can kind of partner with us and put their products on our site. So it's something that we're all super excited about. And we think it's going to be an awesome form of revenue for the company as well. And it fits just so naturally with our product. People ask us all the time, I want to get a mug for my sister. I want to get a t-shirt. So it just fits really naturally. And then affiliate marketing has been something really cool that we're dabbling in, just again, because it's kind of that natural influencer type fit with our product. And so that has been
such a huge audience. I mean, you guys are over a million subscribers
nationwide. Yeah. And for those of you who may be like, do I have it in my city? It's always going to be Market Today. So in Greenville, it's GVLToday. In San Diego, it's SD Today. In Seattle, it's SEA Today. And if you're ever wanting us to come to your city, on our website, which is 6amcity.com. Why am I hesitating on that? I feel like that's so true. Yeah, please link it, because now I'm like, oh my gosh. But if you ever want us to come to your city, there is a nominate your city button, and you can also see like past nominations of where. So like Milwaukee, Wisconsin is in there where I'm pushing for us to go. So yeah, that's kind of the history. I hope that answered your question.
That is, yeah, that's
the history of the company.
No, that's perfect. And before I ask you kind of what your day-to-day looks like as an editor, like a managing editor, you've already kind of mentioned some of the things that you do. But before I do that, I want, just because I want to be mindful of time, I want to jump into one of my like kind of key questions, which is talking about challenges that you faced as a young professional. So you kind of mentioned earlier that there were maybe some family circumstances that, you know, you kind of demoted yourself. So if that's a challenge, then maybe like tell us how you grew from that. And if there's other challenges that you've experienced, how did you overcome those and, you know, get to where you are?
Yeah, so that's definitely a challenge. And I would say the biggest part of that challenge is doing something that people don't expect from you. So Camber, I really appreciated before the interview when you were telling me about your story. It's the same thing with me. You know, TTI was a great company, and I also wasn't 100% fulfilled in that job. It was a big company. There was a lot going on, and I really felt like I had a calling to do something more creative. And so, you know, kind of demoting myself and then also taking this risk on a small startup. You know, when I was telling folks at my old company I was leaving, you know, the reaction was like, oh, you're going to a startup, like good luck. And so that was another risk and kind of some adversity that I faced in my career. And then I would also say in both companies that I've worked for, TTI and 6am, they are super fast paced and they're always evolving. And so what kind of happens there sometimes is you have to problem solve on your own. And this is something I really learned at TTI. And I think it's a great life skill for like a lot of young professionals to have. But if you're asking a question, can you pose the answer to that question when you ask it? And that was something that I didn't know when I first started working, because your bosses and managers, they're busy and they don't have time to kind of sometimes sit you down and walk you through stuff. So if you can come to the table with, I have this question and I also think I have the potential solution. What do you think about this? I find that conversation goes so much better than just, I have this question.
Yeah.
And, you know, it shows that you've done your research. It shows what avenues you've gone down.
Yeah.
And so, especially in fast-paced environments, I think that is crucial. And especially in my early time at TTI, I didn't really understand that. And it's something that I have brought with me to 6 a.m. And I really try to encourage in everyone that I train is like, find the answer to that question if you can, or come to the table with a solution. So
I think that's wonderful advice. And that's something that I definitely did not know when I was 21 and starting out. And you have to learn it the hard way, but it's great when you can have people tell you and you can learn from that, from our mistakes, if you will. But I think that's a great lesson that you learned, that you now share with people that you coach and train.
Yeah.
So we can tie these two questions together, but why do you stay? Right? So in your current job, I think we can all tell that you are definitely very pro 6 a.m. city, but what is it that makes you want, what is it that makes you want to stay? Because something that, you know, we talked about before the interview was why the YoProKnow is here, why it exists. And it's to help companies retain their young professional employees, which really means keep them happy, engaged, and empowered. So why do you stay, and maybe tag along with what you're actually doing? Like what, you know, again, back to that question earlier, what does your day-to-day look like for people who might be interested in this kind of industry, or if they're interested in, even, you know, if you're hiring, if they're interested in working at 6 a.m. City. So again, full question, but I'd love to hear.
Yeah. Very full question. I don't feel so bad with my answers now, because that was like 12 questions in one. So I feel okay going on and on.
You're welcome.
I think hitting on why I stay. So I've been with the company for approaching 2.5 years now. And number one, it's an excellent fit for me. I'm creative. I enjoy writing. I enjoy visual design and presentation. And so for me, it's naturally a great fit for things that I think I enjoy. And I also think that I excel and am good at. So that is a great thing to feel when you're at your job and you're like, I'm good at what I do. It's exciting and it's empowering. Another thing that I appreciate is I appreciate the mission of 6 a.m. I appreciate the positivity that comes through in our news. So for those of you who may not be familiar, kind of one of our taglines is doing positive service. And so we don't talk about crime and punishment, and we don't talk about state and nationwide politics in our product. We are completely neutral when it comes to those things. And so our products are kind of a nice, just warm spot to drink a cup of coffee with, and know that we always say, like, we don't want to include things that are going to make our readers' blood pressure rise at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I really appreciate that, that kind of version of the news, because I feel like we don't get that so much in our day and age. And it's just a really neat thing. Like, I always was like, I wonder if I should get into the nonprofit sphere. And with this product, you can really help so many businesses and entrepreneurs. And I even met someone at a craft fair that I had plugged one of her products that my mom had purchased for me. And she was like, oh my gosh, that was you. Like, thank you so much. Like, I've sold out of that product every year. And so that feels good too. And then as far as like management and decisions about like kind of leadership down, why I stay, I was mentioning to you that we have a remote work policy, a work from home policy, and that is huge in this day and age. We have an office in Greenville, and, you know, obviously I love going there when I want to, and when I'm, you know, searching for that kind of interaction with others. But being at home, there's just, it is so nice on a personal level. And it also helps me to get a lot of deep work done too. When in an office, you can see my personality. This is me when I'm in an office all day. And so it kind of, I'm like, not focused.
You need to get focused.
Yeah. So it really helps that. And then also, like, I really appreciate that 6 a.m. rewards good work and hard work, and also tries to recognize and help people grow. We have a great culture of two-way feedback. And from that feedback, a lot of the times you're asked, like, what do you want to do next? What are you searching for? And so that's kind of how affiliate marketing landed in my lap. Was, you know, it was something I was always clear that I'm passionate about marketing. It's something I want to do. And so they were like, okay, like, you know, this is a new thing we're trying out. So why don't you like take a shot at it? So that's kind of that answer. And then day to day, it's all over the board.
Yeah.
It could be, calling candidates and getting them excited about 6 a.m. It could be conducting interviews. I'm working through revamping our entire training program right now. So a lot of time is dedicated to that. I am writing assessments and watching interviews. If I have people I'm training, I'm also training them roughly like an hour a day. Just, all the other little random things that kind of fall into that affiliate marketing piece takes some of my time daily. But yeah, I mean, my days I feel like everyone says this, but like my days truly look different. Right. Every single day. So
and that's great. But it's very clear that you are in the right spot, and what a cool company to be a part of. So I know I've said that a ton. And before I jump to my last question, Anna, I want to just mention too that, this morning, for example, I was reading Greenville Today, as I always do. And I spent a lot longer today because the top story was about, vegan friendly options in town.
Yeah.
And I've been traveling a lot, and a lot of the meal prep services that are around are not vegan. And I like to eat vegan during the week. I like to eat more plant-based. And so I ordered something from one of the companies this morning that you guys posted. And so it's it's convenient. It pops up when you need it. And so I just think that's really cool and a nice little plug, but we will mention, different handles, across our social media channels and when this gets posted, so people can find you. And we'll also link to your LinkedIn profile if anybody is interested in connecting, which I'm sure you would love to.
Yes, absolutely. And to answer one of your last questions, we are hiring, and we have a jobs page on our website. We're hiring for 2 editors right now, one in Madison, Wisconsin, and one in Austin, Texas. And as we continue to grow and expand, we need 2 city editors and a salesperson in every market we go into. So there's always a lot of jobs coming up. So.
Yeah, well, awesome. Well, any last minute words of advice, something that you feel like we didn't get a chance to share today?
I would just say, like, outside of work, I've been seeing a lot of like 5 to 9 stuff on social media and like your life from 5 to 9. And I think that that's hugely important. And I would encourage young professionals to obviously have fun. Like I feel like even at 27, I'm at a different stage of life, but have fun. And also make sure you're taking the time to cultivate what you truly want and what you're truly passionate about. So if that's hobbies and interests, if that's a career change, like make sure you're not just always out and about and, going out to the bar and going out to eat and, going on this trip and that trip. Like really take some time for your professional development. I think that that's huge in these first years because you may get your foot in the door early somewhere and have time to grow in your career and something that you truly are passionate about if you take those small efforts in the beginning. So that would be something I would say. And also I can't leave without talking about 6 a.m. employs a business development coach, and her name is Smire Hunt here in Greenville. And she is phenomenal. And I meet with her once a month, and I have since I started with the company. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend we talk about leadership and giving two-way feedback and, communication styles and things like that. So if you have the opportunity to get connected with someone who is a business development coach in your city, I just can't recommend that enough. I think it's really changed my life and my perspective in general, and especially as it pertains to my career. It's been so helpful. So
awesome. Well, I think those are great words to end with. So Anna, thanks so much for being on the Pro Know. I'm excited to share your story.
Thank you, Camber. It was great. I really appreciate it.